Welcome, friends. Welcome back to another episode of Coffee Break Live. Um, I'm going to turn this less into Coffee Break Live and more into just episodes of GM philosophy. So we're going to probably do away, slowly downsize the Coffee Break Live. Today we're talking about self-doubt. Will someone let me know if you can hear me in the chat? That would be so awesome. I'm going to give a shout out to everyone who's here. Garrick is here already. Heck yeah. John is here. Robert is here. Jason is here. How's it going, everyone? If someone just drop me a comment, let me know if you can hear my voice loud and clear. That'd be super awesome. But we're going to dive into this. We're talking about self-doubt. Mr. Vincent's in the house. Thank you, Mr. Vincent. Says it sounds good. Excellent. Thank you. All right. So self-doubt. As game masters, we sometimes doubt ourselves. We sometimes look at the prospect of running a game and we think, my God, can I really do this? This is a very scary prospect. Now, in the chat, people watching this after the chat, among them, there may be experienced GMs who still experience a bit of self-doubt. There may be brand new GMs who think to themselves, man, I don't even know if I can do this. There is a lot to doubt here. I doubt myself. I doubt my ability to run a great game. Hat Cat Moby is in the house. Hello, Hat Cat. Great to see you. Owl Warrior. How's it going, Owl? I recognize you from a comment. We had a conversation going the other day. Great to see you. So how do you deal with it as a GM? I'm going to tell you a little story. I know this very intimately. I know this idea about doubting yourself as a game master. I remember in my first really successful D&D game, I had anywhere from 8 to 13 players on any given night. I would get so nervous that I would go in the bathroom before everyone would be at the table. There would be just all this noise as people were getting their stuff out, leveling up their characters, talking about rules, talking about what feats they got, discussing plans for the session. Just this din, this ruckus. The kitchen would be so loud, and this was one of my favorite sounds because it was everyone coming together and it was just so much going on. But at the same time, I was so anxious because I thought, look at this potential for a great game tonight. What if I go out there and as the game master, I fail these players? That was my mentality. And so I would go in the bathroom and I would look in the mirror and I would literally tell myself, you can do this, you can do this. And I would pound a shot of liquid courage before heading out there and saying, hey, everybody, how's it going? And we would start the game. And the games went so well. Not everyone went perfect. There were many mistakes. I made many mistakes, but the games really went well. And overcoming that self-doubt was part of what helped me to make the games good. Because the truth is, when I doubted myself the most and I held back as a game master, that's when the games felt lackluster. And that's when they would drop. That's when they would become boring and strange. Whereas when I really believed in myself and I went all out and I acted with complete courage and boldness, this is when my games tended to run the best. And I think the reason for that is because we are less creatively inhibited when we do believe in ourselves, when we are giving everything we have to the experience, when we are saying, you know what, I am here, I'm in it to win it, I believe in myself, I'm going to do the very best I can, I'm going to do everything in my power to make this creative, to make this inspiring, to make this game run really well. And I'm going to introduce bold encounters and I'm going to have the NPCs say bold things. I'm going to ruffle some feathers. I'm going to divide the table. We're going to make this a session to remember. Whereas I think a lot of GMs, when they think about doing those things, they think, oh my God, like what if my descriptions are terrible? What if I try to roleplay the NPC and it's just embarrassing? What if, I try to say bold things and the players just kind of don't care and they don't take it seriously? Or even worse, what if all these players, they know the rules better than me and I make the wrong rulings, or I do the wrong things when they cast the spell and then they're mad at me? And, there's all kinds of doubt that can pop up. In fact, what I'd like you to do in the chat is pop up your doubts that you might have while running a game. Kelf is in the house. Hey, Kelf, how's it going? Great to see you. I would like you to put your doubts that you might have as a GM in the chat, and let's just talk about it. Kelf says, heroes don't grow when things are easy. The best stories come from hardship, struggle, and bouncing back. This is so true. And Garrick says, if they preferred the session to watching sitcom reruns at home, it was a success. Yes, which brings back the old adage, if they keep coming back, you must be doing something right. DQ Park says, sounds like me. Well, okay, so here's my first step into this, my first tip, if you will. The first thing I want to discuss here John Haney says there's a comment on the Discord. We got to go take a look at that and make myself a note of that here before we go too far. The first thing I want to say is that mistakes are going to happen. Mess ups are going to happen. All of these scenarios I described above, every single one of them has happened to me many, many times. I have tried to role play NPCs and ended up embarrassing myself. I have gotten the rules wrong. I have had players get mad at me about rulings, bad rulings, good rulings, whatever. I have made bold statements about villains and had the players not take it seriously and not really care. I have had all of those situations happen to me. With that being said, Kelf was absolutely right. Heroes don't grow when things are easy. The best stories come from hardship, struggle, and bouncing back. There's the old adage, success is falling down 7 times, but getting up 8. We're going to be imperfect. We're going to make mistakes, but this does not mean that we should doubt ourselves. In fact, mistakes are par for the course. As they say, we're going to mess up at times, but here's another thing. They often talk about Michael Jordan, how, whenever they would tell him, oh, you've made so many shots, you've been such a champion player, one of the greatest of all time. And then he would often say, yeah, but I've missed 9,000 shots. Like, he was always kind of counting the shots he didn't take, because there's the thing, every shot he didn't take got him closer to being a champion. It was just the stuff he had to go through to get to the point where he was great at his craft. He had to miss and miss and miss as he was learning and bettering his game, bettering his skill. And this is exactly the truth when you're running games. One of the very best things you can do when you're running into a game is to let yourself off the hook for failure. Do not think to yourself, oh, I can't fail. No. You're going to probably fail a little bit, and you should not be afraid of this. You should accept failure with a laugh, and you should open another energy drink, and you should just hit the next scene running. If the players laugh at you, laugh with them. And then admit, yeah, that was actually kind of dumb. If you get a spell wrong, be like, oh my God, I got the spell wrong. I can't believe it. You know what? Because you got shafted in that scenario because I got the spell wrong. Guess what? I'm going to give you 2 initiatives, or I'm going to give you 2 advantages. Use them throughout the rest of the game. That's me as the GM saying, sorry, I messed up your spell. Just roll with it. Just roll with it. Now we have some really good comments here. Players won't know what to do, just stare at me blankly, generally disengaged. Okay. So AWOL Warrior, this is something that I think causes a lot of game masters some anxiety. They think, what if this happens? What if I go in there and players are disengaged? Well, here's the thing. If I sit down to a table and there's a bunch of disengaged players, then I'm going to take a minute. I'm going to recognize what's happening. And then I'm just going to say, hey, everyone roll me not initiative. You could say roll me initiative. I'm going to say, everyone roll me a percentile. They get out their dice. Now we've got motion, right? There's physical activity at least. Maybe people are putting down theve phones. Maybe they're opening their dice bag. Okay, we're moving. We're moving. They're going to roll some percentiles. And then I'm going to decide in my mind, do I want highest or lowest? And generally what I do is I go most extreme. So the closest to 100 or the closest to 1 is the one I pick. So if someone rolls a 2, and then someone else rolled a 96, I'm going to choose a 2. It's like, you describe what your character is doing right now. Boom, they're going to start it. I'm going to let them set the tone. We're following the characters, right? We're going to jump right into it. I'm going to engage them. But here's the thing. I'm going to engage them fully. I'm going to look this character in the eye. I'm going to lean in. I'm going to talk to this character. I'm going to take it very seriously. I'm going to say, okay, you rolled a 2. Here's what I need. I need to know exactly what your character is doing right now. And then sometimes I may even stop and ask clarifying questions, ask them to clarify a little bit more. Now, halfway through, I'm going to stop them and I'm going to say, okay, now I need to know if anyone else is in the same room as, where we left off last session, just to clarify who all is in the same room as so-and-so. And then if someone says, I am, then I'm going to say, okay, now, while this is going on, I want you to be thinking, I'm going to come to you next. I want you to finish, what you're doing. If it's an action, I'll be like, you can jump in anytime you want, right? So I start giving them direction. I start kind of guiding them into that. And so that's AWOL Warrior. That's just my general one-off take about that. That's how I would handle that kind of situation. Nate Sheltry says, I would recommend reading your table. If your players enjoy the game when it's more lighthearted, maybe it's time to change the tone to increase everyone's fun, including your own at the table. So, Nate, this is speaking exactly to adaptation. We do have to adapt. We have to adapt to not only the table, but each individual player. Some players will like lightheartedness. They're going to like the zany jokes. They're going to like the ridiculous comedy. Some players are going to want it dark. They're going to want it gritty. They're going to want it serious. I truly believe that reading the table is good, but reading the players is better. And here's the thing: once again, we're talking about conquering self-doubt. Reading your players is like getting a manual into their mind. It's like detecting thoughts. You're getting an advantage. If you don't know what your players want at all and you just throw stuff out there, well, there's a greater chance for failure. But if you're watching your players and you throw them a comedic scene and then you throw them a really serious scene and you see which one they bite on more, then you have some information. You know a lot better how you can succeed with this player moving forward. And this comes with experience. However, you need to play to get experience, and self-doubt sometimes gets in the way of that. So the way you do it is you just barge in and you try things, right? Try things. Try throwing some different scenarios out. See which players engage the most. This is very good advice, Nate. Garrick says, when I brought them to a big city the first time, I had doubt. I knew I couldn't run in a huge, complicated city successfully. They did several 7 to 8 hour sessions worth there. Okay. So you felt like running a big city was like discouraging to you. This felt like a doubt situation. I personally have a very similar thing when it comes to big combats. Believe it or not, I used to worry about big combats. Small combats, no problem. But big combat, I would be like, man, it's going to turn into a slog. It's going to get inefficient. People are going to be waiting a half hour for their turn. Like, I hate that. I hate it when players are waiting a half hour for the turn. It makes the game feel bad to me, this kind of thing. Garrick, but it sounds like Garrick charged in, just started role playing. You just start going, walk into the city, describe what they're seeing, let them take the lead, let them take control of the story of their characters. If you have a player who's disengaged, just re-engage them. You can either re-engage them by saying, all right, what's your character going to do? You see the general trader here. You see there's a horse over there. There's a donkey. Looks like a donkey kicking his master. The guy's falling down and yelling for help. Well, what are you going to do? It's like, just engaging your players. Now, I want to go to the Discord real quick. There are some comments in here. I want to grab this. Give me just a moment. Do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button and hit that subscribe button if you're not already subscribed. This helps the channel so much. John Haney has a comment here, and I want to read this. Many aspiring, new, and even veteran GMs struggle with self-doubt because they are focused on the destination rather than the direction, especially with an abundance of professional GMs to watch on the internet. It can be easy to set those pro games as a goal and then only be able to focus on all the ways that our games fall short. But here's the thing. None of us, not even Matt Mercer, will ever be a perfect GM, but we can focus our efforts on consistent improvement and thereby continuously grow towards excellence. Set real expectations, then roll up your sleeves and see how you can put in the work to make yourself better. Don't focus on being a slightly worse version of Matt Mercer. Instead, focus on being a slightly better version of yourself. That is such good advice. Excellent advice, John. There's a couple other comments here that I really want to read. Mr. Vincent says, quit looking at Mercer. He's good, but geesh. Just give a damn and put in some work. You'll be fine. It's actually a lot of wisdom. A lot of wisdom in that. Hylian Sword. Hey, Hylian Sword, great to see you. Says, I feel attacked. I used to do this. Then the more we played, the more I realized if I kept spending my time comparing myself to Matt Mercer and Brandon Lee Mulligan, I wouldn't have fun. And the game's supposed to be fun for the DM too, not just the players. That is super true. Super true. I will admit, though, sometimes the self-doubt keeps us from having fun. Now, John Haney left another comment here. Let's talk about this. I personally get really scared that my story isn't making sense. I convince myself that I need a continuity checker. I even have one player that takes crazy good notes, so I'm worried he'll notice. So this is actually interesting. I used to worry about this too, but I used to worry about this on the back end. My problem was that I didn't think enough about the story in advance. When I was kind of first starting, I actually did a lot of kind of like micro railroading, but macro improvising, which was kind of like some of that was good. The railroading is not good, but macro improvising, not so bad, actually, kind of sandboxy. But here's the thing that I have found in this vein is that I used to take like the continuity of my stories way too seriously to a point. You do need continuity, but it's also true that like there's a lot to be said for leaving it open to mystery and supplying like a few vague details. I've also had situations where I've completely forgotten that were really important, and then the players brought them up, and I had already started going in a different direction, and here I am like, wow, I really messed up. I really messed up. Like there was one session not too long ago where I mistakenly believed that an NPC had died, but they hadn't died. And then I role played one of the NPCs coming up to the players and being like, so and so is dead. And then they were like, what? And they were like really shocked. And for a minute, I was like, wait a minute, why are they acting shocked? I thought they already knew this. It turned out I was remembering it completely wrong, that NPC hadn't died. And then I was like, oh my gosh. So what do? I trust myself. This is the thing. I've learned to really trust myself. If I said it, I'm not going back on it. I'm going to say, I said it for a reason. I don't know what it is yet. And then usually the first thing that comes to mind that explains it, that must be it. That's canon now. And if it's really zany, then something's broken, and that becomes part of the story. It's pretty rare that I break things so much that I have to do things like timey-wimey nonsense or reality overlap nonsense or doppelganger nonsense, but I have done all of those things in the past. I have done them. So anyway, John, super valid. Don't worry about it too much. If in doubt, throw a mimic in the room. Kelf says, I worry that my players will realize that my notes are only ever considering what's immediately ahead of them. Well, I have a destination in mind. I have no clue what road will lead to it. Okay, interesting. Okay, so this is actually a little different than what John was saying. John was worried that the players were going to question the continuity of the story that they were going through. But Kelf, here you're talking about worrying that the players will only ever, like they'll realize that you're really only considering what's immediately in front of them. Basically, like, well, Kelf, don't you have more of a story planned than this kind of thing is what it sounds like. So here's the thing. And now I'm saying this, Kelf probably knows this. Kelf and John are both very experienced GMs. So, keep in mind, if I bring your comment up and I read it, if you made the comment, I'm not necessarily like preaching at you. I am just talking about my take on that particular problem. These are all kind of problems I've faced at one time or another. So it's like my take on the problem and how I solved it in my own experience. And this is mostly for the new GMs who might be dealing with these particular problems. What I would do with this one is I would go back in time and remind my younger GM self, you know what? The players don't know a lot of so they're not thinking as deeply about your story or the continuity of it, or even the future of it as you might think. And that's kind of a weird thing. Think about what you think about as a player. When you're playing, you're mostly thinking about what's my character going to do? Like right now, what are they going to do? That is 95% of the processing power that's going into it, because players are playing the game in real time. It takes very little veil to obscure the future events, to leave mystery, and then a very little bit of details being unveiled at a consistent, immersive pace to make players believe that you have it all figured out, and you actually seem to be a miracle worker who can tell the future. How did they know? How did the GM know we were going to go here? Well, the truth is, GM didn't know. they just improvised a room to connect that road to this road, and boom, that's what happened. But to the players, it looks like magic oftentimes, and that's the thing. And as GMs, we know it's not magic, right? That's why we doubt ourselves. But to players, it feels like magic. And even as a GM, when I'm a player in a good GM's game, it still seems like magic to me. I do not know how they do it. I don't know how they make it fit so seamlessly together. So even though to you it might feel like there's a bunch of holes in it, there are probably not a bunch of holes in it. Mr. Vincent says, what if I run a great game? What if I am awesome? What if I accomplish my gaming goals? What if everyone appreciates me? Go boldly into the storm. I actually totally agree with this. And this is easier said than done. But I want you to think for just a second um, about the path. That there are two paths ahead of us when we sit down to run a game. And this is true of everything in life, I've learned, but it's so we think of it as plan A and plan B. Okay. Plan A, people who go after plan A, they like make a goal, they attack plan A with full gusto. They burn the boats. In other words, they don't even leave themselves a retreat. They're so sure of their success. They don't even think about plan B because to them, plan A is worth everything, and that's all that matters. Plan A is their favorite plan. It's the best plan. That's the way you want to run that NPC. That's the way you want to run that combat. That is the way you want that room to look. It's the way you want that monster to act. Plan A, right? Now, all of us in life have the option to have a plan B. Some people walk into a situation and before they embark on plan A, they want to make sure they have a plan B, which is like the fallback plan. It's like the backup plan. Okay. Now, there's nothing wrong with having a fallback plan. In fact, in D&D, when you're running games, it's not a bad idea to have a whole notebook of backup plans just in case things do not go as planned. Because I don't know if you know this, things are probably not going to go as planned. With that being said, it is really important to understand that every bit of energy you put into plan B is going to take away energy from plan A. And a lot of times, our plan Bs as game masters are associated with backing off, being a little more timid, being a little more afraid, doubting ourselves a little bit more, retreating a little bit, right? It's if things go wrong, we're going to kind of back out a little bit. We're going to try to minimize the embarrassment. We're going to try to minimize the disaster. We're going to try to minimize player disillusionment, all these things. But here's the thing. If we spend too much time being afraid of those things and we put that energy into there, if we had applied all of that energy to plan A, would plan A have overcome those things and just blitz through to be a massive success? Did plan A fail because we put so much of our resources into plan B instead of devoting them all to plan A? I believe that this is a incredibly relevant thing to ask. I think this is a super relevant thing to ask. And to be really honest, in a lot of cases, resources are just better invested in plan A when it comes to running a game. As game masters, if we put all of our dice into the boldness that comes with our gut instincts, we're probably going to end up running a better game. And even if it's not, perfect, that's fine because it is not going to be perfect. There's no such thing as perfect. AWOL Warrior says, brilliant. Thank you. I'm glad. I hope so. I hope it's helpful. Garrick says, I found them a good hotel with a helpful concierge and wrote one session. The rest followed from there. Yeah, you just get into it. And sometimes you end up finding out. See, nowadays, I would say large scale combats, even though they used to scare me, I would call myself maybe, dare I say, almost an expert at them now because I've run so many of them. And I would say that I'm pretty good at making them work well. But that was because I had to face my fear and dive in and do it. D. Coopark says, I've just got to get over my embarrassment of attempting to act out NPCs because I know I'm bad at it. That's funny. No, I totally understand that. My encouragement to you, D. Coopark, would be to say, yeah, try to overcome that embarrassment and just role play it. Which is easier said than done. I totally understand it's easier said than done, but I would encourage you next time, go all out. Go all out. Think to yourself, you know what? Embarrassment is off the table. Ask yourself, are these people still going to like me and be my friends if I embarrass myself acting out NPCs? The answer is probably yes. So even if you go all out and you do kind of a bad job and it's kind of embarrassing, they're still going to like you. They're still going to be your friends. You just might be a little embarrassed, but you might take this game into whole new directions, into whole nother levels of awesome that you've never tapped into before, just because you were daring to be bold and to go to those places that you were afraid to go in before. Now, real quick, I'm going to tell all of you to join my Discord. Link is in the description. Continue the journey and join me on Discord, GM Philosophy Discord. We're awesome in there. We do lots of awesome things. If you want to continue the journey even further, you should sign up for my email list. You get my free Ultimate Plot Randomizer ebook. Link is in the description. 4 D100 tables. Lets you random roll plot arcs on the fly. It's a free gift you get for signing up for my email list. I also send out cool news updates and whatnot. So join my email list. You can also join my Ko-Fi. I have a Ko-Fi to support the channel. That link is also in the description. Check it out. You get access to my whole book library. All right. Let's go to Hat Cat Moby. I worry that my players aren't as interested in playing as they say they are. They're either doing something else in the background, we play over Discord, or shirking engagement onto someone else. So that's a hard one, actually. Here's what I'd say. Sometimes it is true that players aren't as engaged as you are, or as they could be. This is a very hard thing. Sometimes you have to part ways with players who are like this, because here's the thing. And I've got to tell you, in facing fear and overcoming self-doubt as a game master, you also need to overcome your self-doubt that you are not worth playing with. As a game master, if you are trying to run a good game, putting effort into it, adapting and learning to try to make every session better, you are probably doing a good job. You probably you actually deserve players who are fun to play with, players who are engaged, players who pay attention, players who put at least as much into their character as you put into running the game, which means a little prep work, thinking through things, showing up prepared, showing up knowing their abilities, etc. Sometimes we settle for players who do not give as much because we do not think we deserve better. Now, I'm not saying to go fire all of your friends and throw away your table and go just say, oh, I can find unlimited people. It's like, oh, I don't need to put up with anything. No. I'm not trying to say that. Oh, we should care about the people we game with, and we should try to preserve our friendships. But what I'm saying is sometimes we put up with gaming groups who don't give as much. They're not as engaged. They don't care as much. And this takes away from our game experience as game masters. This is actually no good. This is no good. Game masters do deserve to play. Hylian Sword said this in the earlier comment from Discord. Game masters deserve to enjoy the game too. So this is also part of the process of coming to believe in yourself, overcoming self-doubt. Believe in yourself enough to know that you deserve to play with players who also show up for you in the way that you show up for them. And sometimes you have to separate from players who do not. So, Cat Moby, if your players are legitimately not giving as much as you are, then the self-doubt here might be you doubting you deserve better. But you do. Now, if the problem here is that they are actually engaged, but you are doubting yourself in the sense of like, I'm worried that they're not as engaged as they seem like they are, right? So it's like maybe they're faking it to make me feel better or something like that. I would really urge you to realize that humans are not very likely to do this. D&D players are not very likely to fake it to make the GM feel better, at least not if they keep showing up. They might do that for one session and then not show up to the next one. But they're not going to probably do that every week. And here's why. That's too much work, too much effort. They could go join another game with a GM that they really enjoy playing with. If they keep coming back to your game, if they've shown up to your game twice in a row, 3 times in a row, 4 times in a row. I mean, sometimes people miss a session, but then if they come back, there's a good chance that the truth is they are engaged. Now, I can't speak to whether they're doing things in the background. Sometimes they do. As a player, I really try to minimize all distraction and focus completely on the game. I will say that in today's modern world, there are a lot of people who are very distractible. This is becoming more difficult, I think. You can have this conversation with your players. You can say, I want really engaged players. If you want to like be playing video game while you're playing D&D, then my game probably isn't for you. I want players who are fully engaged, and it's totally okay if that's not the game for you. We should have those conversations. We as GMs deserve to have those conversations because we deserve to believe in ourselves enough to believe that we deserve as good an experience as we give other people. And let me tell you what, Cat Moby, I have a feeling that you are not playing video games while you're trying to run a D&D game. I have a feeling you're giving a lot more than that. So you deserve at least that much. AWOL Warrior says, my wife is an excellent note taker. She saved me more than once. A good note taker will save your life. High key. Mr. Vincent says, D&D is one of the only things I can be confident I will kick ass in, despite fumbling like in everything else. So so you have a lot of confidence in D&D, and you're very confident in it. This is good. This is very good. And this probably leads you to act boldly. And I have a feeling, and for the newer GMs out here, listen, I'm telling you this is true. I bet Mr. Vincent would confirm this is true. When you have that confidence and that boldness, and you literally think to yourself, I'm gonna crush it. Like, there's no question, it's gonna be awesome. And you put all your resources into plan A, and you're just going all out, and you don't really care if you mess up a little bit, and you're just doing your best and you're having fun. That soundness of mind, that confidence is going to give an energy that's going to make it even better than it would have been when we were nervous. We're going to engage a higher level of consciousness there. We're going to drive it in a way. That's a whole nother level. It's going to give different vibes when we are bold and confident in it. It's going to be that much better. Role play a GM. Yes. I'm not 100% sure how that would go. Interesting. Mr. Vincent says, watch character backgrounds in Barrenlands 2 tonight. Absolutely. Tonight at 7 o'clock Central Standard Time. Barrenlands 3 would normally have been showing, but we are not live streaming a session tonight because of scheduling conflicts. So instead, we are posting background interviews behind the character sheets. Do not miss it right here on the GM Philosophy YouTube. It's going to be awesome. John says, got to bounce. John, thank you so much for all of your contributions. Everyone hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, please. It really helps the channel. It doesn't cost you anything. Garrick says, if your players are 2/3 as engaged as you are, you're doing fine. I think that's true. I really think that's true. The GM is always going to be the one probably who's the most engaged. I think that's a true thing. And the fact, if your players are a little less engaged than you are, this is not an indication that you're not doing a good job. This is an indication that things are probably going kind of normal. What you want to look at is if your players are like 1/4 as engaged as you, or if they only pay attention when it's their turn and then they have literally zoned out about everything else and they don't know what's going on. That's a problem. You probably deserve better players than that. Someone needs to start a player focused channel. Who in this chat is going to start a YouTube channel for players? Because players need to learn. Some players need to learn how to play D&D, man. Some players need to learn. These game masters deserve better. My channel is all for game masters, but I'm just telling you, man. Garrick says, role play the kind of GM you want to be, and soon the pretend becomes reality. This is true, and this is true of everything in life. This is true of everything in life. Jason says, remember, the rules are only guidelines. They are. Or as Neo said in The Matrix, there is no spoon. Kind of reminds me of that for some reason. Hotcat Moby says, 1, 2, 3, not it. Nose goes. Last person to put their finger on their nose has to start a channel for players. I'll subscribe. The best way to learn is to be a DM. Yes, this is really true. And this is going to be, I think, our final comment on this. The best way to learn is to be a DM and to do it. If you run 5 sessions, you're going to be 5 sessions better than you were. Then when you run 10 sessions, you're going to be a whole different DM. When you've run 20 sessions, you're going to be a whole different DM. Experience is going to teach you so much. And that boldness, part of confidence comes from competence. When we do a good job, and we know we do a good job, and we see it evidenced in the games we play and in our players, and the players are telling us, you're so awesome, such an awesome GM, I love it. When we see that happen, we're going to get more confident. Why? Because we're seeing proof of our competence. Competence begets confidence. Damn it. This means Mr. Vincent's starting a player channel, I think. He also says, whose line is it anyway? Yeah. Whose line is it anyway? That's the show that all of us GMs watched when we were younger, and that taught us how to improvise. And when we played it with our friends. Jason says, so you are making better players by making better DMs. That is true. In our Barrenlands campaign, the depth of role play is insane. And every single player is actually a very experienced forever GM. That is high key true. You want to find in-depth players, join our GM Philosophy Discord and go to the Looking for Games channel and post your game in there, because the whole community is really based toward Game Masters. So it's a whole community of Game Masters. I'm telling you, my very favorite players are GMs. Heck yeah. So with that being said, do a couple things for me. if you like this channel and you like the content, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, drop me a comment, let me know what kind of videos you would like to see in the future. In the description, join the Discord, sign up for my email list to get your free plot randomizer ebook, and you should check out that Ko-Fi membership. And if you think you'd like to support what we're doing here at GM Philosophy, then sign up and join up. But at the very least, either join that Discord or sign up for my email list so that we can stay in touch. Nate Sheltree says, as someone new to GMing for D&D, what are your suggestions for running combat? I've only ever ran combat in an old Marvel TSR game. Nate, were you playing classic Marvel? If so, salute to you. That is the game that started it all for me as well. Classic Marvel. You can still download all the books for free as a PDF and print them out. I used to have them all in binders. So I have a couple of videos on my channel about running combat. That's a deep topic. Here's what I would say, Nate. I would say jump into the Discord. Do me a favor. Jump in the Discord. Send me a private message and say, hey, GM Philosopher, this is Nate Sheltree from the live stream. I was asking about combat. Will you send me some videos? And I have like 3 or 4 videos on my channel specifically about combat. If you message me, I will send them to you, and that will get you started on my whole philosophy about running combat in D&D, and that will help a lot. It's kind of a lot to explain right here. I feel like I would it'd take me about 4 hours to explain my best suggestions for running combat just right here in the live stream. So go ahead and jump into the Discord and do that for me, or you can jump onto the email list and email me, and I'll email them to you. Those are both great ways to get in touch with me personally, and I would love to meet you in person anyway. Robert says, later, y'all. Mr. Vincent says, great show. Go boldly. Absolutely. If you can run Marvel, you're fine. Yes. Classic Marvel was not easy to run. That was not an easy game to run. All right. Thank you all so much for joining me for another episode in Philosophy in the Afternoon. I'm here every single day, creating videos about the best game in the world, D&D. Roll some D100s for me at your next game. I will see you awesome people on the next one.